Welcome to this episode of Your Wellness MD podcast. Family physician and wellness expert, Dr. Daniela Steyn, has meaningful conversations that will take your health to the next level. She explores the connection between a healthy body, mind, and soul, and shares tips that will enable you to thrive. Dr. Steyn has helped thousands of people have a better quality of life by improving their health with science-based knowledge, education, better nutrition, mindfulness, and lifestyle choices. Join us today, empowering you to live your best life with optimal health.
Hi, I'm Dr. Daniela Steyn, and welcome to the Wellness Talk Show. I'm your host. I'm a medical doctor, a wellness expert, and today I'm so excited to have Tenille Hoogland with me. Welcome, Tenille.
Thank you so much.
So I'm super excited to have Tenille here. I'm a triathlon athlete myself, and Tenille specializes in triathlon coaching, specifically with looking at hormonal health, helping women in the perimenopausal years, and just general hormonal health. We know that for years and years, coaching has really just been geared more towards guys. And now there's so much research showing the impact that it has on women's hormones and how we can adjust our training to be good for our hormones, to harness all the benefit from our natural ebb and flow of our hormones. So I'm super excited to have Tenille here. Welcome, Tenille.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for creating this opportunity for me.
So you are an incredible athlete yourself. You used to be a professional athlete. You now coaches athletes all over the world. You really specialize in triathlon. You specialize in running, cycling, swimming, triathlon, endurance events. And then tell us a little bit about your journey, because I know you studied all over Canada. You studied in psychology, in nutrition, everything to help your clients take their game to the next level. Tell us a bit about your journey.
Yeah, it was interesting. I worked with, I had the privilege of working with Silken Laumann, and she kept on saying to Neil, you never know where your journey, like putting all these pieces of your life journey together, it'll end up making sense. Because the journey to where I am now didn't make sense until I got here. So I started, I started psychology in my undergrad.
But even before psychology, you were a synchronized swimmer.
I was a synchronized swimmer growing up. Yeah.
Athletic lifelong.
Yeah. And that was actually, it is an important place to start, because my love of the water is what runs through. And where is home? Like we think about where we're home. I have some really high level triathletes, and still their home is in running. And my home is in swimming. And I understand the water and the feel of the water so well because of all those years as a synchronized swimmer, where I was trying to get to the Olympic Games. I didn't in that sport. I had actually left home at 16 and moved out just to, focus on training before I went to university. And that was not a great year for me. I really suffered from a difference in coaching styles. And that was the end. And I just took a hiatus from sport and just dropped out. And I was like one of those casualties that, oh my, this is not a good situation. But I came back to it in my undergrad through just a love of biking. Actually was my next thing. And I became an active travel guide. And so I was cycling a lot, and I apparently had some talent in cycling. So it was more like I just was really good at working hard. I just knew how to work hard. So I was cycling more and more. And from there, I went around the world as an active travel guide for a company called Backroads. And from after that, I graduated, I lived abroad for a bit and came back. I was like, I'm going to do this triathlon thing because I like cycling. I like running. All I have to do is add the run. Like, that's not a problem. You just one foot in front of the other, right? No problem.
So you were good at swimming and good at biking, which is good, because for most triathlon athletes, swimming is the most daunting part. So that really gives you an edge that you're a good swimmer. And now you had this biking experience.
That's right.
So it was just running, and everyone can run.
Everybody can run, right? That's what I thought, right? Everybody can run. And whether I could run that fast, well, let's see about that. So with my psychology degree from Western, it used to be called University of Western Ontario, now called Western University. I went on and I actually, from another experience where I was living in Argentina, decided to work in policy. And so I got my Master's of Public Administration from Queen's University and went and started working in environmental health, which then led me to working for Health Canada, which then led me to working for the 2010 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games Federal Secretariat. Well, there's nothing that's going to be
incredible. That is incredible. Nice. Good for you.
I know, like all these tangents, right? So then what was interesting there is like you're sitting in a meeting and you're watching, and it was the most unbelievable experience, a beautiful work experience that I had with the federal government there as a senior planner. And I loved it. And we would sit in our meetings and, you know, we'd get like motivated about our work by looking at these Olympians. And then that reignited the fire for me to say, I'm not done yet. I want sport in my life and I want to get to the highest level that I can do, but without having all these problems that I suffered from in my synchronized swimming career. So I became serious, and then the federal government did support me in, you know, whittling down my hours. I was working typical full-time, then I was working less than full-time, and then I was working part-time, and then it was 2010, the Olympics were going to happen, and I took off and I moved to the United States to work with my coach then, Steyn Castro. And yeah, I was living in Austin, Texas, living the dream. I became a professional triathlete.
Amazing.
Yeah. So then from there, it was, I, you know, started investigating and understanding. And this is also where I started. I have, you know, one of the experiences that something I learned about myself is that hard work is never a problem for me. I love it.
And that's incredible. I think that's the most important part, right, of being an athlete.
It is, except for when it becomes a problem. So what happened was I was so good at pushing so hard that and not having the correct, and they didn't know, like I can be very critical about, you know, what was happening. You know, I retired in 2013. So what was happening before 2013, and it still is, I would say, really rampant in triathlons specifically as a sport, of the underfueling, so relative energy deficiency in sport. And I was certainly one of those that I lost my period for 5 years. I was injured a lot. I was not optimizing my performance whatsoever. And so I actually went to Simon Fraser University and started doing a nutrition degree because it didn't make sense. Nobody was telling, like nothing that I was getting. I went to 3 different registered dietitians and it just was not clicking. It didn't make sense what I was being told and what was happening in my body. And so the journey through triathlon, I had amazing success because of my hard work and determination, but I also really suffered in terms of my hormonal health and my physical health. And so in 2013, I was like, I'm done. I want to have a family. I didn't have a boyfriend at the time. I just knew that I needed to stop doing and going around the world and having this, you know, really self-focused lifestyle if I wanted to actually broaden out and pursue other goals and priorities. And I did meet the man of my dreams, and I did end up marrying him all within short order. I was on a clock because I was already almost 40. So then my journey continued on and understanding hormones and the importance. And because my body had suffered so much and my hormone health had suffered so much, I had a lot of troubles with fertility. And so went through numerous years of fertility treatments and trying to get back on track. And this led me into looking into, okay, what's the next stage that I've got to be prepared for? Because I'm not going to repeat the same patterns. And how do we support female athletes? And it was a revolution. And I think that now with so much research coming out, although I think it's very new, I think that we still don't know a ton. I think we're so much further ahead in what we know about how to support the female athlete. And in my specialty right now is also how to support that female triathlete in hormonal change. And that's what you were pointing to. And
which is critical, and that is why I'm so excited about what you are doing, because for the average triathlon athlete to be signing up with a coach, doesn't mean that the coach will have the knowledge, because this knowledge is also new. It's not something that is taught mainstream. And if I just look back at my journey, even in school, our coach would weigh us in front of the rest of the track and field team, and he will say out loud your weight and then write it down on a clipboard. And he said, and we now call it body shaming, but from his perspective, he said that if you carry around 2 kilograms too much, it's like running with 2 jugs of milk on either thigh. So from their perspective, it was good to call out your weight in front of your whole track and field team, because you should just not gain weight. You should just be not carrying extra weight, right? So that is really the athletic culture where we're coming from. And for us to find a coach, we can't just look at any coach. We have to look at a coach as a female. You have to find a coach who specializes in female hormones, if that's important to you, because not everyone will have this knowledge.
Yeah, and I think that it's also particularly for this life stage of perimenopause, because a lot of women that come to me, they come from, a recreational, I just love to cycle, but I can't do what I used to. And I still want to play with my friends. Like, I still want to go out and ride with the club or the group or the whatever. And so there's this recreational component. And then there's also my athletes that are wanting to performance. And there's this real shift in this challenge of what I used to do, and it always worked then. And that's where I think that there's a real nuance, and what you're speaking to is this expertise, because what you used to do will not work in the long term, right? So a lot of coaches in the traditional model, you throw volume at you, you're going to get better. You just are. And you're going to potentially get injured if you're throwing volume and intensity. And so this is where we've got to get a lot smarter, because think of the woman in midlife. The woman in midlife is dealing with so much more. We're not going to the Olympics. I am not going to the Olympics. It's okay. It is about you wanting to perform your best with the other priorities that you have in your life. And there's a lot of stressors that are on women. I'm, that 40-year-old, I'm now 46, woman that has 2 small kids. Well, that is not as abnormal as it used to be, right? Like, there's a lot more of us out there. And so we're at the height of our career. We're, pushing hard on that front, where our parents are getting older. So we're having the young kids, the elderly parents that you're kind of worried about. And that's definitely my case right now. It's like, I'm like squeezed. And so think about the stressors that we have on us. And then we still want to take care of our bodies. And we're thinking, how do we manage that? How do I perform my best in this? And that's where we don't want to waste time. And that's where the coach comes in. We can't afford to waste time. Well, I want to say we can't afford it. If you want to live an optimal life, don't waste time.
Yeah. And that's quite critical. And with wasting time, it is don't get injuries. How do you prevent injuries? I worked with a great sports coach. And then I went through a period last year where I wasn't training for anything specific. I didn't need a coach. I just went out on my own. I went to the track, loved it. I ran the fastest I could possibly run. I kind of thought I was in high school again. But then I pulled a hamstring, which is still sore, which is ridiculous. Like, no coach would have given me any training plan to run that fast.
Right.
No, but just because I wasn't working with a plan, I wasn't working with a coach, I thought, it was a training, I thought I could run as fast as I can. And then you just one day get to that age where you can't do the same things that you used to do in high school. So you have to do smart things, because if you're now out for a season, then you really wasted a year where you're still in your prime. Even when you're going through your perimenopausal years, I feel from an athletic perspective, a triathlon perspective, if we look at the amount of people doing triathlons, that is really when you're in your prime. You're strong and you're healthy.
Yeah.
You have the wisdom and the mindset. I was actually quite surprised because I'm from South Africa, I came to Canada. And when I ran my first half marathon here, I saw where I ranked. And then I thought, okay, but what am I going to rank in my age group if we take all the young kids away? And then I saw that in my age group, I kind of ranked the same. There wasn't as many kids in their 20s at the half marathon than what I was used to when I was in my 20s. So the majority was really in their 40s, 50s. And when I read up on that, it said that, well, from that author's perspective, that endurance training is now the new midlife crisis. Rather than buying a new car, you go and see, what can my body do? My body is still strong. What can my body do? Right? What does peak performance look like for me? Well, I can still do it.
Yeah. Well, and this is it, is that category between 40 and 55, I would say they are working hard. And a lot of women are doing it almost as a full time. Like they have that space and that ability. So if you're looking at it, and if you do fall into the comparison trap, I do suggest, like, be careful, because there are a lot of people that are in those upper levels that are just like, I get to now focus on my sport here. I've done so much, and now I'm going to really put my energy and my prioritization into that upper echelon of how fast can I be. And they're fast.
And you coach all of them. You coach people who want to go to Triathlon World Championships, but you also coach people who just want to be able to work out or to go on these lovely bike rides in summer with their friends. So they want to train year round so that they're in good shape to be able to do these rides without getting injuries over the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think regardless of whether you're going for your best performance, we still need, and I talk about like the standards that we need to have as female athletes or as females, period. We want the resistance training. We want the intensity, not too much, but really focused and with intention. And we want to think about how to balance that endurance load. So say you do want to do the ride that your group is going out. Well, if it's a 40-kilometer ride, or if it's a 60 or 100, you still want to know how to manage that load. And so how much of that volume? Well, you're not going to ride all the time. Quite frankly, if you're doing this for lifestyle, you want to really maximize that one ride and on the weekend. And maybe you don't need to do a long ride every weekend, because that may not be available to you or may not be actually good for your body. So it's this real ebb and flow that you're looking for that I've really dialed into and had a lot of success. So people can, like you pointed it out, show up consistently, stay out of injury, actually enjoy it. Like, actually continue to have fun and push yourself hard.
Yes. And then the other thing would also be that's bike riding, but then also marathon running. I have school friends who would tell me, oh, do you want to go do Berlin, 25 September 2025? Do you want to go do this? It becomes kind of a touristy thing to now do marathon running all over the world.
Yeah.
And you work with those athletes as well, right? Even if they haven't done any marathon running, if you decide you're in your 40s, in your 50s, you now want to go and do your first marathon.
Yeah, well, this is so interesting. And it's, again, I coach really differently on how, so as we are in that, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and I'll give you an example. I'm working with a world champion duathlete. So she, world champion, fast as anything, comes from a pedigree of, and as an incredible runner, has done all of the distances. And she's going through perimenopause right now, and we're really having to change everything that she knew before is on its head. And because hormone changes, like kicking her butt. So the other day she was on vacation with her beautiful partner, and I coach both of them actually. And I had said, okay, go out for a 5-hour hike, because they're both wanting to do long distance. And just like, I just want time on your feet. And they came back, they're just like, that's why you want us to hike so much, because it's hard. And I'm like, yes, I want you to have time on your feet. And so it's thinking about different ways that we can bring our body into and apply a stress in a way that is really positive. They obviously have built up the endurance to do a 5-hour hike and enjoy it. But they were both surprised at just like, oh, this isn't easy. This thing that you have, like, that's why you want. I'm like, yeah, I want the feet to work, because we're thinking about, particularly for her as estrogen is decreasing, like your ligaments and everything starts to kind of relax. And I want those feet to work. I don't want balance. I don't want treadmill. I don't want only road. I want you to have to continuously work and think about, but again, and even that, we don't always want to apply the stress. So it's dosing. It's like, how do you dose it? And that's where the coach can support you and think about, okay, so how is it that we're dealing with this really big change and we can still go after our performance goals?
So for our podcast listeners, YouTube watchers, what tips can you give them on nutrition if you're perimenopause, or maybe if you have other hormonal struggles and you really want to nourish your body? How would you be eating different than the average athlete you've been doing up to now?
Absolutely. Protein.
So what do you think?
So that's the one thing that it's because it's easy to miss, right? It's like we think
Very
that we're
easy.
getting enough, but that is one of the biggest challenges because why is it hard, especially for females, to get in that amount of protein can be difficult because our stomachs are only so big and we can get really satiated. And so one of the things that I notice in working with women is this real, like, I couldn't eat any more protein. And then what happens if you're feeling so satiated and you start not being able to eat those carbohydrates that are going to fuel your intensity? We want the carbohydrates to be able to meet the demands of the exercise we're doing. So it's in that balance of how do we know, how do we feel? And this is where I think that we can get so dialed into, okay, well, I'm supposed to have, 1.8 to 2.2 or whatever, whichever expert, but I'm closer to be the 1.6 to 1.8 grams per kilogram of body weight of protein for the perimenopause and post-menopause community. So, and what does that actually mean to how you feel? How are you actually responding to the work that you're doing? How is it that I want you to keep your muscle mass. I want you to stimulate those muscles. Nutrition's a part of that, as is the work you're going to do. So how do we balance and ensure that because at the end of the day, we want to feel good. Like, that's the metric. How do you feel? How are you responding? What's your heart rate doing? Are you recovering? And so our nutrition needs to be, yes, informed by these guidelines and these beautiful things like get your protein up, think about your carbohydrates that you're going to use to fuel the workout, like hard intensity. Make sure you have something on board, because otherwise you're going to feel flat, or you'll feel like it's super hard, but your pace was bleh, your power was bleh, like it just wasn't there. But it felt hard because you just weren't nourished and ready to go. And so knowing that difference is where we're at, and saying, okay, so are you responding? Are you getting what you want?
What's an easy way to add more protein to your diet?
For me, and for a lot of the women that I work with, we think about what is the things that we love to eat at each meal. So what's the easiest way? I think that finding the things that make it so it's possible for you. So if you are an egg eater, and you like your eggs, then go for the eggs, right? Get that protein in through, you probably need about at least 3, like it depends. You may also need, if you eat meat, then you can have a slice of something with it, of meat there, leftovers, but really be diligent in that breakfast when you have it. In the lunchtime, what works for you? Is it a can of tuna? Is it some salmon? Like what is your go-to? And have a couple of those, so that it's not, you want to take the thinking out of it. So choose those things. If you are not able to get, you're always on the go, then think about the protein powders as an option, because they're a good option. Yes, they are a processed food, and they are also a good option, particularly if you want to be very attuned to the work that you're doing, and you're in that, I want to feel optimal, and this is where I'm at when I'm trying to feel optimal. And then dinner is usually a little bit easier.
And you do get very clean protein powders. So at my wellness clinic, we see a lot of athletes, and initially after I did lifestyle medicine training, my whole approach was whole foods, whole foods.
Mhm.
But it is tricky to get enough protein in. And especially as a busy mom who's maybe working full time and training, it is tricky to be eating all day. So we've done quite a bit of research at our clinic, and we now have these protein powders we recommend, both vegan and dairy. But they're really out there, and you can have a look on our website for protein powders that we recommend. But they are out there, clean protein powders without additives. That's really clean protein. Sometimes vegan, I personally use a vegan protein powder. Some patients or clients say that they feel that it makes them maybe gassy if it's made out of pea protein. So you can just try different ones until you find your protein powder, and you're not going to replace food. You're still going to have your whole foods protein, breakfast, lunch, dinner. You're just going to, if you add up at the end of the day and you say, oh my goodness, I really didn't meet my needs, you'll maybe add on a quick protein shake.
I'm totally aligned with that. Like we need to still get in what we need to get in, and we have busy lives. You got, as long as, what do we think about whole foods? Of course we want whole, like real foods, things that go bad, to nourish our body, to do all the optimal functioning. And then there's the addition of being athletic, that you might need that top up. And that's where we can also be like, you know what, I have nourished. I've got all those beautiful colors in my life. I've got all those beautiful macronutrients generally, but I need that top up to meet those optimal needs that I have, because that's where I'm at, and that's a real excellence thing. And that's something to be excited about, and we can get the support we need. So I love it
And especially when we work with athletes who are struggling, that they are still at a higher weight than they ideally want. And they have, so they want to lose weight. Then I always first look at their protein intake. Because rather than saying, oh, you have to cut calories or you have to cut certain foods, I just say increase more protein. And then generally when people increase more protein, they don't get as hungry, they do feel more full, and they're less likely to eat ice cream and pizza and foods that's not nourishing their body as well.
Yeah. And this is such a perfect thing that you were just mentioning, because this is specifically that in a summit that's coming up, Being Athletic in Perimenopause and Beyond, that is launching on World Menopause Day, October 18th. This is what you speak to, and so eloquently, and really this is what we dive into as well. And thinking about how, for a lot of athletes, and it's so brilliant what you talk about, is like a lot of athletes come into and saying, well, I'm working so hard, I do so much training, why am I not either losing weight, or why am I not, why am I just not feeling good? And you speak to that in this interview. So I just would like plug, make sure you come in and take a listen to what Dr. Steyn has to say about that, because I think that there's a lot of nuances that you speak to that I just was really exciting for me to hear.
So I'm very excited about the summit. I'm excited. I'm passionate about menopause. That's why I wrote that book, Thrive Through Menopause. And in my book, I talk quite a bit about training and nourishing your body and how to train in the perimenopausal years. But then I'm super excited about you hosting the summit. So it's everything I'm passionate about. It's menopause, it's triathlon, it's the whole anyone being athletic in the perimenopausal years. Tell us a little bit about the summit.
Yeah, so this is actually I started them in 2021, and I bring together experts along the lines of mindset, nutrition, training, and recovery, with also the understanding that the female physiology is always within all of those, and thinking about how is the female different. And so really talking to and bringing people from around the world that's is what they do all day, every day. Think about the female that is being athletic, or they can exercise, like it's this little bit, this nuance thinking about, it's like, is this for me? If you exercise, if you're wanting to optimize your well-being, if you want to be active in a way that is really in nourishment of your body and, you know, getting the most of your cardiovascular health, if you're thinking about how do I exercise for body composition, how do I do these things, it's a really broad, it's for you. That's what I can say, because there's so many things that we talk about, like joint health and tendons and ligaments. I bring in physiotherapists. I bring in alternative ways of thinking as well, so we can learn about and understand where is this coming from. I'm very scientific. I like to make sure that all my experts bring in that rigor, because it's not poof. I don't do poof. I don't do magic pills.
This is an incredible opportunity for everyone listening to this, watching, that they can join the summit. Who is the summit open to? Who can join?
It's free. It's open for everyone, and it's around the world, obviously, but you know, it's link into it and you will be sent for 7 days, the number of interviews, and you have the opportunity. So for that 24 hours, you're going to get those speakers. There'll be about 20 to 25 speakers through those 7 days. And if obviously there's just like, I don't have that much time to listen, then you can also purchase the VIP pass, which will give you access for a lifetime to all the interviews. Yeah, so you can.
So this is an incredible opportunity, rather than going and seeing that physiotherapist and seeing this coach, and maybe for people who don't have access to all these experts, it's free. So if you can't afford all these experts, you now can have access to everyone's wisdom, and get tips from that, how to implement it in your own life. And it's incredible that you're doing this, Tenille, to help women to take their triathlon to the next level, and to keep women in training through the perimenopausal years, because we know if you do continue to train through your perimenopausal years, you're going to prevent heart disease, which is our biggest killer through perimenopausal years. You're going to prevent heart disease. You're going to prevent osteoporosis. Our biggest concern is that we lose muscle mass after menopause every year. If you can stay strong during these perimenopausal years, get enough protein, do muscle strengthening, you'll age so well, you'll live longer, stronger. So it's such a pivotal time in a woman's life, right? To really invest in her own health, and you enable them. So thanks for that.
Oh, I obviously love it, because I keep on doing it, and it's really what we can move toward. You know, it's a real positive thing of what do we move toward? What do we want more of in our life? And I think that keeping that lightness and that inspiration is really what I'm all about, and what the speakers that I bring on are about too.
Amazing. Thank you so much for hosting the summit. I will put links in the description below. Links if anyone here listening or watching would like to register for the summit. The free link we'll have below, VIP pass we'll have below. And then also, if anyone would like to work with you, I'll have your social media and your email, everything below. If someone is interested in working with you one-on-one, need coaching, sports coaching, nutrition, mindset coaching, group coaching, that's the other thing, is we really become like the 5 people that we spend most time with. So if you notice that the people around you are not as healthy and you would like to connect with a bit like-minded, healthier community, you can help through your training community as well.
Yes. I love my people. I love my athletes so much.
Good. Thank you so much for spending time with me, Tenille. I really appreciate it. I know our YouTube watchers would love this. Please click the like button, subscribe, then you'll get notifications when another YouTube video drops. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Please share it with your friends. And thank you so much to our audience for your time. I really appreciate it. I hope there's something in here that you can implement in your life to take your life to the next level. Thanks, Tenille.
Thank you.